The group that was necessary and brilliant in the creation of this faces not just a decision on a whim of Chris and Senator Johnston, but it's a structural challenge of any initiative that's seeking to broaden its base that was conceived of with one structure, a smaller group that could literally be in the same room and make decisions together, reach consensus. It will become fundamentally impossible to achieve that same structure while expanding. I mean, any corporation that tries to keep a tight management team as it expands, faces that challenge. A fascinating case study is what happened, to the military as it went into more and more complicated situations in the Middle East. They tried to use old tools and couldn't respond fast enough when they had. And so, a term that I think is fascinating from that is. The military relies on this concept of commander's intent. The book Made to Stick. This concept of instead of detailed battle plans and regular management meetings, it's a spirit that once we know the situation hits the reality of the complexities of whether it's a battlefield or a legislative process. I don't mean to draw unfair analogies between those two. It's more important that the person who's making decisions is clear on the commander's intent than they are on the detailed battle plans, because they will change immediately. And the gift of that Finance Partnership Strength Committee is you've given a really clear commander's intent. You've given detailed principles that will have to be applied over time in multiple places around the state. So I guess I would just echo Senator Johnston. The best role that steering committee can play is to remain deeply committed to the evolution of the ideas. People will look to you. They'll say, "Are you guys in? Is this good? I mean, should I take part? Is this thing for real?" The more your answer is, "Yeah." I mean, there's some things I have some concerns about, but we're in. We're going to stay at the table. We're going to make this thing right, and we want to preserve the best possible policy. I mean, your influence, Bruce, on others around you is tremendous, and the degree to which your voice appears in these ongoing conversations and your commitment remains there, and that's true for everyone in this room, is the degree to which this coalition here today becomes 5,000 and then 10,000 going forward. So it's a shift. It isn't simply a decision of a small leadership group. It's a fundamental challenge of expanding change to include more and more people. So again, we may not have got it right. There might be better ways to do it, but I think it's a necessary evolution of the process.
I would just like to suggest that the last meeting, when you talk about things independently, you have a different opinion than when you look at where we might end up for that last meeting, to look at all of these things that we talked about collectively. So that, I mean, it's kind of like asking people if you want a pay raise, everybody's going to say yes, but then when you look at the big picture, what does that mean? You're going to have 35 kids in your class. Well, no, I don't want a pay raise if that's the result. You just pit early education against special education when you're just talking about it independently. So somehow, so that everybody can come back together and try to formulate something that they think.
That's a great plan. I think there's no intention that at the end of each session we will have solved that individual problem of that day. It's really just more to try to take the elephant and eat it in small pieces, or just say let's kind of, and what it's going to take will be then kind of reweaving those components through as we go from meeting to meeting, because obviously whatever you do on weights and categoricals affects what you do on SPED, affects what you do on ELL, affects what you do on all of those components, and in fact what you need for revenue. And so, as you well know, any one tweak, any part of the system has significant implications. And so I think there's never going to be I don't think it's going to be like a Rubik's Cube where in the first meeting we get the blue done, and the next meeting you get yellow and red, and then you have to figure out the last side. It's going to be more of a iterative process throughout all this.
All right, well, why don't we turn then to Wendy's presentation from the Home Street Group. I don't know if Mike or Chris is going to give more of an extensive background, but we've mentioned a number of times the importance, and you've even heard in your questions, that it's becoming increasingly valuable in an online space to continue the conversation, add other documents, other research, suggestions, improvements on the process. So if you want to come up or... Well, I could certainly just move this.
I don't like slides. I like PowerPoint, so we don't even have to do it. It's like they put all this at the screenshot of the website. So, it doesn't want to happen.
Sure, we'd love to see it. We love slides.
There was public demand for a PowerPoint.
So just quickly for folks that aren't familiar, Hope Street Group is an organization that works around the country helping facilitate platforms that encourage conversation among educators on issues that are important to them. So they've done it in states and around the country. A lot of, I don't know what number of tremendous amount of educators across the country who interface and use your platforms, and so they seem like a perfect partner to help us stage this platform where educators and education supporters around the state could host this communal dialogue about where we're going, what we're trying to do. So thank you so much to them for their leadership.
Well, thank you for incorporating us. We're really excited to partner with you guys. So like Senator Johnston was saying, Hope Street Group, we're all about creating innovative policy in new ways by combining many stakeholder voices. And we've done this in several different states. We have over 3,000 teachers on our platform in various capacities and in organizations, just having internal dialogue about issues that they're trying to overcome, whether it's locally, whether it's statewide, or even nationally. So, yeah, I can stand. I can do that. That's fair. Okay. So I just thought I'd give you a couple some of the instances where this has happened and some of the outcomes that have come from it, just so you guys can get a picture of, what we've done and how this space can be used. The first example that I was thinking of is actually in Tennessee. So Tennessee was one of the first race to the top states, and they decided that they wanted to convene groups of educators across the country in all of the non-tested grades and subjects. So fine arts, foreign, PE, foreign languages, and I think there were 13 different groups. And so these teacher groups all met together on the workspace. They had their own workspaces, and they were able to develop their own recommendations for the state on how the state should go about testing these non-tested grades and subjects. So that's one example. Another example is actually kind of along the same lines with non-tested grades and subjects. We found that this was something that federal policymakers didn't fully understand. They were under the impression that teachers wanted non-tested grades. They wanted school-wide measures to be used for their non-tested grades and subjects. For anybody that doesn't, this is getting kind of technical, to just explain that a little bit. Basically, if you teach kindergarten, I'm a former kindergarten teacher, so if I taught kindergarten, my part of my test, my evaluation would be based on students that I didn't teach and students that were in a tested grade or subject area. And so what we found through one of our workspaces is that teachers actually didn't like this. And they wanted to come up, and they had other solutions other than using school-wide measures. And so we were able to put together a policy paper with educators from the website and deliver that to policymakers. And it's actually made some changes in actually combining the two examples I just gave in Tennessee. We have a teacher out there who has actually come up with a new way of measuring student growth in fine arts. So that's sort of how the space has been used. I'm really excited to be able to help you guys and provide this workspace for you all to be able to have conversations in between your in-person meetings. So you can go ahead and click through to the next slide, actually. There we go. So this is what the workspace looks like when you log in. It gives just a brief description of what this group is, and then you can see at the top there are several tabs. And so there's the two that you'll probably be most using are the discussion tab and the documents tab. And you'll see that there's already a discussion that's, I took this screenshot a little bit before, but there's actually already a discussion that's uploaded that you guys can, so you guys will be able to, when you log in, you guys will be able to see that there's already discussions going. You guys have the capabilities to start your own discussion threads. So if there's something that comes up, just from listening to the meeting thus far, it sounds like there may be something that you guys want to consider for the next meeting. So, it's your prerogative to jump on this site and upload a comment if that's what you would like to do, and to just remind everyone to keep that in mind for the next meeting. On the other hand, you can also post things after meetings. So the team is going to be posting, we're going to have the videos up here and documents so that you guys can react and respond to those. Earlier, people were talking about maybe having sort of a debrief after the fact, because a debrief being at the next meeting will take the entire meeting. This workspace is great for that. And the other thing is that you can do it whenever you're available. It's often hard when you have so many people to get everyone in the same place at the same time. This allows you to get on if you have some time available, 11, 12 o'clock at night, you can go ahead and jump on. We found that this actually works really well for teachers, especially who are really busy throughout the school day, but then also
like Riley is talking to Riley, so.
I may have posted at 1:45 a.m., so using it as it's supposed to.
It's a fascinating conversation so far.
Scary.
So you guys, I have a list of people, and some of you may have gotten an email earlier today from me, well, if it's from Hope Street Group. It may have also gone to your junk mail, so check that out. It has your username and your password, and also a link to the website. So if you guys want to just check your emails, and if for some reason, if you haven't gotten it, if it's not your junk mail, we're going to have a sign-up sheet so that I can make sure that you have a username and password, because I want to make sure that you can access the site. I'm also going to be here tomorrow morning to help do like walkthroughs and brief training. So if you guys are around and available, it won't take too long, but it is helpful just to be able to walk with someone who knows the site really well and help you get settled and situated and feel comfortable with this workspace.
What year do you mean?
Yeah, I'm going to be, yes, I'm going to be here. I don't know where exactly. Okay, I'll be in one.
At what time?
All morning, yeah. We have a sign-up sheet, so anytime that you guys are available, I will be here from like 8 to 1. My flight, I have to leave about 2 o'clock. So I'll be
The
here.
sign-up sheet is right on that table where you can your name tag, so on your way out, if you want to make sure to sign up there.
And if you could also on the sign-up sheet, if there's anybody who's not here, who you think should be here, or anybody who you'd like to have involved in the process you know is invested in and would like to be engaged, if you could add their name, even if you don't have contact info, their name or contact info if you have it, we'll make sure we get them all the information out so they can follow along at home or here or wherever they want to be. We'd love to use that as a kind of parking lot to expand the circle of folks you think should be included.
And if you guys can't come tomorrow while I'm here, you guys can email me. My contact information is both on the site, but also in the welcome email that I sent you. So you can feel free to email me if you have any questions. The one thing that I will say, and I'm going to tell everyone this, even if you're for one-on-one or even if you email me with questions, please upload a profile picture. I know that sounds goofy and more like social media, but it really makes a difference when you're having an online conversation to realize that you're talking with a real person and to really see their face versus talking to like a little blue avatar, which is what you will be if you don't upload a picture. So I thought now would be a good time if you guys have questions, happy to answer a couple questions about the site.
This is a fascinating innovation. And being old, I'm curious about some convention around it. Because one of the things that scares me about it, and I don't want to be scared. I want to feel safe, and I want to use it. But at what point do we cut off what we add before we come to the next meeting? Because I see this as an opportunity to be literally volumes of material that need to be reviewed and read and analyzed and commented on and et cetera before we walk in the door at the next meeting. So what's the convention here about that? I mean, is that the expectation? Is that when we come to the next meeting, we've read everything that's been posted on this site?
There will be a homework check when everyone walks in the door.
Well, I don't mean it's not.
No, I know.
But I mean, this is where the dialogue is going to be
great point.
contained. I need to have some realistic expectation of how much of this stuff we're supposed to, because this could be a huge thing.
I agree. No, I was kidding, but I think it's a really great point. But I think it is true that obviously the requirements for membership in this group are loose, right? Which is we want everyone to have a voice if they want to, so there is no you can't come unless you've done the background reading. So I expect that there will be folks who engage in differential levels on this debate. But I think your suggestion of a sort of cutoff period is a great idea, which is, I don't know if we call it 24 hours or 48 hours before the meeting, sort of the site closes, so you can't have someone load on a 225-page study the night before and come in the next day and expect us all to have that in our vocabulary. And so I don't know what the right answer is to that, but I think you raise a great point. I think if there is some cutoff period so people know if they want to take a couple days before the session to look at it, that's on them. So I think that's a great idea.
Wendy, just curious, does the site have a rating system at all for comments that change their ranking feedback as well?
There's a feature that we can use. It's a little bit, it's a tool that we have to add on. It's actually, yeah, I'll answer no.
Yeah, so that's fine.
The simple answer is no.
So at the verge of being too aggressive, does 48 hours seem like the right rule, Carol? What would you say? Because I think I'm just looking at the distance between some of the meetings. Some of them are a week apart. And so I think if we went more than that, it'd be hard to get.
No, I mean, that, again, that sounds fun to me, just so that
Yeah, so
at some point I can say, well,
Yeah.
if I really want to come in knowing what everybody's talking about,
Yeah.
we can stop here.
Actually, I mean, I don't mean to take delight in your concern, but it's not the concern I anticipated. I think in some ways our bigger concern was that people would want us to give input and needed a vehicle for that. The thought that it would cause stress for members in this group not having time to read it is actually kind of a welcome thought in one sense, because I think the minimal commitment is that information, ideas that are posted, and I actually had this funny conversation with David after having suggested this basic approach. I'm like, are you sure you want to do what I just suggested? He said, yeah, we will read this now. I mean, that's what we're doing here. We want the best ideas. So a very minimal commitment on the kind of policy drafting side. There's a commitment to go through everything. But if you want to up the ante and say, even to come to the next meeting, we're really going to commit to try to read everything in advance, I think it's all better.
I will say there is an option on the site, and you can see it over here. It says, under actions, you guys aren't going to have as many actions as I do just because I'm admin, but if you see there's, under notifications, it will say receive email notifications. That is an option if you want it. I know that some people feel too overwhelmed because they get enough emails as is, but if you want to get an email, like what will happen, let's say I were to get on the site and post something, you would get an email that just has my entire comment and then a link to the discussion if you want to go click on it and reply. So that's just an option. I wanted to throw that out.
So we would get Carol Hedges as opposed to the document or as opposed to the comment would be what would come in notifications. We'd know who posted.
This is great. Other questions just on using the site? Again, and you got actually defer to Chris and Senator Johnston, but a sense of thank you and appreciation for Wendy's time and get to know more about the terms of engagement.
Yes, thank you so much for all
I'm
your
really
help.
excited for this. This is great because we've done some stuff in other states, but nothing to this extent. And so I'm really excited to help you guys out.
Thank you so much for being
If I could answer real quick.
Yeah.
Logins have been sent around to everybody who's on the steering committee list and the partnership provider list. So if you're not on one of those lists, you can sign. Okay. If anybody doesn't have one, even after all that, and wants one, you can get in touch with me or Wendy